Imagine you really want something, but when you finally get it, the satisfaction quickly fades away. Soon, you're craving something new, and the cycle repeats, leaving an unfillable void. Why does this happen? Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the most profound and provocative philosophers, had a fascinating explanation. He believed that our lives are driven by an insatiable will, a relentless force that perpetually pushes us from one desire to the next, ensuring we are never truly content. In this video, we'll explore Schopenhauer's life and insights into the nature of the will, the inevitable suffering it causes, and the ways we might be able to mitigate this suffering and fill this void. And if you can do me a favor and subscribe and hit the thumbs up button, it would really mean a lot to me and it would really help the channel. Arthur Schopenhauer was born on February 22, 1788, in Danzig, now Gdansk, Poland, to Heinrich Floris Schopenhauer, a prosperous merchant, and Johanna Schopenhauer, a writer. The family moved to Hamburg when Arthur was 5, due to Heinrich's dissatisfaction with Danzig following its annexation by Prussia. Heinrich hoped his son would follow in his footsteps as a merchant and arranged extensive travels for him. Despite his father's plans, Arthur aspired to be a scholar. After his father's probable suicide in 1805, Arthur inherited substantial wealth, allowing him to pursue his academic interests. But he also inherited his father's melancholy and developed a distrust of people in general, a depressed view of the world, an inability to maintain close relationships with anyone, and a sense of personal insecurity, whether in the form of anxiety attacks, phobias, or hypochondria. Schopenhauer enrolled at the University of Göttingen in 1809, initially studying medicine before switching to philosophy, influenced by Kant and Plato. He later transferred to Berlin University, but became disillusioned with academic philosophy, particularly with figures like Hegel. Moving frequently to escape political turmoil and cholera outbreaks, he eventually settled in Frankfurt am Main, where he spent his later years. In 1818, Schopenhauer published his major work, The World as Will and Representation, but it initially received little attention. He lectured at the University of Berlin in 1820 but garnered few students. The next decade was marked by illness and lack of recognition. In 1831, he moved to Frankfurt to escape a cholera epidemic and became more productive, publishing works like On the Will in Nature and gaining recognition for his essay On the Freedom of the Human Will. Schopenhauer's fortunes changed with the 1851 publication of Parerga and Paralipomena, which gained him fame through a positive review by English scholar John Oxenford. He enjoyed his belated recognition until his death in 1860. Schopenhauer's personal life was marked by contentious relationships, including a permanent estrangement from his mother, Johanna, and various legal disputes. Despite these challenges, his philosophical contributions eventually garnered the acclaim they deserved. Schopenhauer's magnum opus, The World as Will and Representation, introduces his most influential ideas, positing that the world can be understood in two fundamental ways, as representation, Vorstellung, and as will, Wille. Building on Immanuel Kant's critical philosophy, particularly the distinction between phenomena, the world as we experience it, and noumena, the world as it is in itself, Schopenhauer asserts that the world as representation refers to the phenomenal reality we perceive and comprehend through our senses and intellect. He explains that our perception of the world is mediated by our cognitive faculties, where raw sensory data is organized by our mind according to the principles of space, time, and causality, principles that are not inherent in the world, but are imposed by our mind to make sense of sensory input. Thus, reality as we experience it is a mental construct, a representation. Central to understanding this is the principle of sufficient reason, which states that everything in the phenomenal world has a cause or reason. Schopenhauer identifies 4 types of sufficient reason: causal, mathematical, logical, and moral. each governing different domains of the phenomenal world, ensuring that our representations are coherent and intelligible. This framework highlights the epistemological limits of human knowledge, as we can never access the noumenal world directly, only the world as it appears through our cognitive lens, emphasizing the subjectivity and constructed nature of our reality. Beyond the world of representations lies a deeper, more fundamental reality that Schopenhauer identifies as the will, a central concept in his metaphysics that provides a unifying principle for understanding existence. Schopenhauer equates the will with Kant's noumenal reality, the thing in itself that exists beyond our representations. Unlike representations, the will is not an object of perception or cognition, but an irrational, blind, and insatiable force that underlies all phenomena. It manifests in the physical world as natural forces, and in the organic world as the drive for survival and reproduction. Schopenhauer argues that the will is a universal force pervading all of nature, embodied in every entity from inanimate objects to living creatures. In humans, the will is experienced most directly as the drive to fulfill desires and instincts, leading to suffering due to its ceaseless and unfulfillable nature. A key aspect of Schopenhauer's philosophy is the link between the will and human suffering. He posits that the will's inherent nature is to strive endlessly, resulting in a cycle of desire, temporary satisfaction, and renewed desire, which prevents lasting happiness and peace, making suffering an intrinsic part of the human condition. Schopenhauer's view of the will leads to his well-known philosophical pessimism. He argues that the will's incessant striving results in a cycle of desire and suffering. Satisfaction of desires is temporary, as fulfilled desires are quickly replaced by new ones, perpetuating an endless cycle of longing and discontent. This bleak view suggests that suffering is an intrinsic part of human existence. The attainment of a goal or desire, Schopenhauer says, results in satisfaction, whereas the frustration of such attainment results in suffering. Since existence is marked by want or deficiency, and since satisfaction of this want is unsustainable, existence is characterized by suffering. This conclusion holds for all of nature, including inanimate natures, insofar as they are at essence will. However, suffering is more conspicuous in the life of human beings because of their intellectual capacities. Rather than serving as a relief from suffering, the intellect of human beings brings home their suffering with greater clarity and consciousness. Even with the use of reason, human beings can in no way alter the degree of misery we experience. Indeed, reason only magnifies the degree to which we suffer. Thus, all the ordinary pursuits of mankind are not only fruitless, but also illusory, insofar as they are oriented towards satisfying an insatiable blind will. Since the essence of existence is insatiable striving, and insatiable striving is suffering, Schopenhauer concludes that non-existence is preferable to existence. However, he says, suicide is not the answer. One cannot resolve the problem of existence through suicide. For since all existence is suffering, death does not end one's suffering, but only terminates the form that one's suffering takes. However, Schopenhauer also identifies a few ways to mitigate suffering. The proper response to recognizing that all existence is suffering is to turn away from or renounce one's own desiring. Salvation can only be found in resignation. He advocates for the denial of the will, a concept influenced by Eastern philosophies such as Buddhism, which he read and admired. By transcending desires and attaining a state of will-less contemplation, individuals can achieve a form of inner peace. Schopenhauer also sees value in aesthetic experiences, particularly in the contemplation of art and nature, which provide temporary relief from the tyranny of the will. Aesthetics plays a crucial role in Schopenhauer's philosophy. He believes that art offers a unique avenue for escaping the suffering inherent in the human condition. Through aesthetic contemplation, individuals can experience a state of pure perception, free from the desires and motives of the will. Schopenhauer distinguishes between different forms of art, with music holding a special place. He argues that music is a direct manifestation of the will, expressing its essence without the mediation of concepts or representations. In contrast, other art forms, such as painting and literature, represent particular objects and scenes, indirectly pointing to the will. Schopenhauer also introduces the concept of the genius, an individual capable of exceptional artistic or intellectual achievements. Geniuses possess an extraordinary ability to transcend personal desires and perceive the world in its purest form. Their works, whether in art, literature, or philosophy, provide profound insights into the human condition and the nature of reality. In ethics, Schopenhauer's philosophy emphasizes compassion as the basis of moral behavior. He contends that recognizing the shared essence of will in oneself and others fosters empathy and altruism. Compassionate actions arise from an intuitive understanding of the suffering of others, leading individuals to act in ways that alleviate this suffering. Schopenhauer criticizes traditional moral systems, particularly those based on abstract principles or utilitarian calculations. He argues that genuine moral actions stem from immediate empathetic responses rather than adherence to external rules or the pursuit of the greatest happiness. Schopenhauer's philosophy has had a significant impact on various fields, including literature, psychology, and the arts. His ideas influenced notable thinkers such as Friedrich Nietzsche, Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Thomas Mann, and Wittgenstein. Schopenhauer's emphasis on the irrational aspects of human nature and his exploration of the unconscious mind paved the way for the development of psychoanalysis. In literature and the arts, Schopenhauer's pessimistic worldview and aesthetic theory resonated with writers and artists seeking to explore the deeper aspects of human existence. His philosophy continues to inspire contemporary discussions on the nature of reality, consciousness, and the human condition. Arthur Schopenhauer's philosophy presents a profound and often unsettling vision of human existence. By distinguishing between the world as representation and the world as will, he offers a unique metaphysical framework that underscores the inherent suffering of life. However, through aesthetic contemplation, the denial of the will, and the cultivation of compassion, Schopenhauer also provides pathways for transcending this suffering. His ideas remain influential, challenging us to confront the depths of human experience and the mysteries of the world. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and help the channel.